This is Bella Talks, and I am your host, K Bella, and this is where we talk about fitness, fashion, finance, and life. And I have my good girl, we call her Chink.
Ooh, yeah.
But she's known to you guys as Sheena, and I really appreciate her for being on the show. So this is Miss Sheena, and welcome to the show.
Listen, Coco, you know we go way back. Way back. But when I tell you, I have to take this moment to say how proud I am of you for creating this platform and just creating this space to have like real life dialogue and conversations about things that affect all of us. And so I am like super excited to be here. I'm happy for whatever the conversation may lead towards. And like I said, I'm just grateful for you for creating this space.
Thank you. Well, this is going to be some good dialogue because we just had one of our people that we kind of look up to, been on the Ellen Show for years, commit suicide. So, you know, mental health is a really big thing that we are going through, and we need to talk about that more.
I agree.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Sheena Torres-Nunes. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have been working in the profession of social work since 2007.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, straight out the womb, y'all, because I know I look young. But,
wow.
Yes,
2007?
I have been working in the field of social work since 2007. And currently I do work for the federal government as a clinical case manager. And then in addition to that, on the side, I provide clinical supervision to other licensed clinicians who are seeking licensure, you know. So, but I enjoy my profession, and I definitely say one of the greatest gifts that have come about from my profession, Coco, is kind of the ability to have interesting conversations about mental health, and more importantly, how it relates to our community.
Yes.
I actually am born and raised right here in Fort Myers, Florida, right in the Campbell Acres, the Chop. That's real, Coco. That's real, Coco. But I'm born and raised right here in Fort Myers, Florida, and so like I feel like being able to be a part of the dialogue here, it hits even closer to home.
Yes.
And so I'm just excited to be on the show and see wherever direction this conversation may go as we talk about mental health.
All right. So, what sparked your interest in going into that field?
Oh. So that's a good question, Coco. So for those who know my mom, Tusi, also known as Mima, whatever version of nickname,
anybody that know her is gonna be
Miss Enid.
Yes, all of that.
If you know her, you know her. But one of the things is when I was growing up, Coco, my mom, she did specialized therapeutic foster care. And she did that pretty much from the time I was like 8 years old until I was about 24. And she pretty much provided care to foster children who had severe mental health issues.
Really?
And I mean, girl, growing up, we've seen a lot, you know, because these kids had, you know, severe just mental health problems, and we saw a lot of different things growing up, but it sparked a curiosity in me. I remember growing up trying to understand where this behavior came from, you know, where we saw kids that lived with us that, you know, attempted suicide, that were impulsive, aggressive, you know, just a variety of behaviors. And I never understood it growing up, but I wanted to understand where this behavior came from. So originally when I went to school, I was like, I'm gonna be a psychologist. But then as I got into my, you know, degree, I was like, I don't know if this is for me.
Right.
And then I took an aptitude test, and that's when it actually suggested social work as a degree calling for me. And that was all it took. And so when I tell you I went to school and immediately fell in love with the curriculum, I immediately fell in love with the fact that, you know, the profession alone, it talks about not only understanding what's going on with somebody's mind, but also recognize like how your environment impacts who you are as a person. So it really looks at the person in totality. So it's not just like, why is, you know, this person acting depressed, but it's also what other factors in their life is influencing their mental health, what other factors is influencing their behavior. And so as I began to grow in the profession, like hands down, I would tell anybody that being a social worker is definitely part of my calling. And it's something that I am so blessed to do. It is really it complements my core values as a person. And I just really love working with people. And I've had the opportunity in this career to work with, from, you know, working, doing adoptions, to working on the crisis stabilization unit. I've had like such a wide array of professional experiences, but hands down, Coco, my favorite opportunities are when I have conversations about mental health. When I have the chance to talk to people about why is mental health important? How do we fix and address, you know, the stigmas related to mental health? So being able to do public speaking about mental health is probably my most preferred platform when it comes to my profession.
Now, is it hard for you to be in this type of profession because of the type of things that you see, and you're dealing with people and you're dealing with them in a very vulnerable state.
Yes, yeah.
How does that affect you as a person?
I'm gonna tell you, it's so funny when people realize I'm a social worker. Like, oh, God bless you. I could never do that. You always feel like, oh, you a social worker.
Yeah.
That's a common response. But I have to be honest. I feel like people who are called to helping professions, whether it's a nurse, a teacher, whatever that role may be, you really have to have a heart for it.
Right.
And I think for me, Coco, over my lifespan, I've learned how to do what I can in that moment, and then be able to walk away and establish some form of peace. Now, I will be honest. There have been moments where there's been certain times that I've interacted with children or patients or clients, and I've gone home in the privacy of my own space and I've cried because of how heavy what they were dealing with was. But for me, I really do, girl, I use my faith. I go back to prayer when it's sometimes too heavy. I pray for my clients. I'm like, Lord Jesus, this man needs help him, Lord. I pray, and then I also just find ways to take care of myself. Like, self-care is important.
Very.
When you're in a healthy
profession.
Yes, because you're dealing, my job every day is to deal with everybody else's problems.
Right. Right.
And so, but I find balance, but it's a tough profession, Coco. Like, when I tell you every day, even at my current position, it's very unpredictable. I don't know what type of challenges, what type of difficulties I'm going to have to, help the people that I work with navigate. And so that's why having that balance as far as my self-care and being able to have that separation of when I'm at work, but when I'm at home, is important.
I really commend social workers, nurses, doctors, because it's not a regular job where you're going to go in and, okay, this is what I need to do. When you go in, you have no clue what's going to be on your plate.
That's very true.
And then when you're there and you're in the moment, it's almost like you're on go from the time you clock in, from the time you clock out. I know a lady that used to do social worker. She retired. She was saying that they were pretty much on call with certain things, like with DCF and stuff like that, where if they have a child that is going through something and she gets a call at 2:00 in the morning, she has to get up and go to that site. So stuff like that, I commend y'all. You really do have to have a love for it, because if you just in it for the money, it's not going to be a good outcome.
The money ain't it. Like, y'all don't think that this profession is not, this is not like a doctor or nurse's pay. Like, let's be real. I mean, like I said, certain places you can go, you can make a little bit more money, but it's really not about the money. You have to have a heart for it, because it is. And I think one of the other challenges too, Coco, is I feel like a lot of people, when they think about social workers, they automatically think of like DCF.
Yes.
And that is such a huge misconception, Mom, because like, honestly, like when I worked for Lutheran Services as an adoptions case manager, but I've never in my years as a social worker, and like I said, I've been doing it since 2007, or is it 2009, have I ever worked for DCF? I've never, no. I did adoption.
Because before you would think it would cross paths some kind of way.
No. So like literally, most of my career, I worked as a school social worker. And then of course, like I said, I worked for the crisis stabilization unit for Solace Care back in the days before, when it was mental health. And then now I work for the federal government. But like I said, in all honesty, Coco, like I think, and that's why a lot of times when people see the word social worker, they don't think of the mental health piece.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They think children and family.
Yeah, like you come and take my child. Like, no, ma'am, I don't want your child. We want you to keep your child. That's what we want. We want you to keep your child. But literally, it's so many other areas that social work actually plays a part, whether it's in the hospitals, like I said, in the federal government, in the school system. It's so many different capacities that social workers play a part. And then, of course, there's that mental health piece to our profession. Okay. Where we're dealing with a lot of trauma-based practices, really helping people work through some of the things that they've been through in their life. Really addressing that mental health piece.
Mental health is becoming a lot more open in the Black community, especially. Yes. I see that you are part of a documentary, Hush, which was produced by Antoine Lindsay.
Yes.
Big ups to him.
Yes.
That was really big. That was really big. Tell us a little bit about how that was for you with being in that documentary.
So I remember when Antoine first came up with this vision and idea, Coco. Like, I remember it was in its conception when it literally was just an idea written on his notepad that he had. He and I sat down, we met at Starbucks, and he was like, Sheena, this is my idea. Like, what do you think? And I was like, Antoine, this is brilliant. I was like, because literally, so the acronym HUSH means help us say help.
Wow.
And so literally,
that's even, that gave me goosebumps just by that.
That is literally what HUSH stands for, is help us say help.
Wow.
And it's speaking about giving the Black community a voice to begin to talk about and have some conversation regarding mental health. And so I remember him as a Black man saying, you know, Sheena, I feel like this is a challenge. And he was a teacher. So he also had an opportunity to see this kind of in his students, some of the challenges with talking about mental health. And so he was like, I need to create this dialogue, this film that will highlight the story. Where does this challenge, what do these challenges derive from? How does it look now, and how do we move forward? And so literally the film literally documents, Coco, back from slavery times, how some of the behavior modifications to, you know, that used on slaves and the silencing techniques, how those things have like now become transgenerational, where from those times to now, these current times, parents still use those same things with silencing their kids, not giving them a voice, not allowing them to talk about things when they're struggling with it. And so you see this film that highlights the past, the present, and speaks about how do we go forward from here. And it's a phenomenal film. I won't give the full details, you all, because he is planning on relaunching the tour this upcoming spring. So if you have not seen Hush, I would definitely recommend to check it out. I've had a very small part in it, but I think even for me, Coco, just being able to go to some of the showings, be a part of the community dialogue about it, because I think that has been the biggest piece that came about, is that like a lot of people, they see this film and it's heavy. You're like, dang, like what do we do with this? And then it sparks this community conversation. So now we know, where do we go from here? And so I think that Antoine has definitely created this platform where through this film it's going to cause a lot of important conversations, and that's what I'm the most excited about.
And I feel like these conversations need to be had, because like you said, going back to slavery to now, just that span of life, and we're still seeing the same things going on over and over again. That's crazy. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest piece that they talk about too in the film, Coco, is the transgenerational trauma, which is where basically unintentionally. So let's say that, you know, if here I am as a woman, not recognizing that I was exposed to emotional trauma, right? So then I didn't have a child and think that then it's appropriate to talk to my child in demeaning ways and belittling terms. So then what happens is it went from my parent to me to then now my child, then my child now had, so it supersedes generations, because no one stops to say, hey, this shouldn't be happening. Like, hey, when you talk to me, this is causing harm, you know? And so I think that that's where you see that, unfortunately, especially in the Black community, there's been a lot of transgenerational trauma, because unfortunately, no one has ever had that conversation. Like, how do we talk to our kids differently? How do we create different spaces for our kids where they can feel safe to talk about the things that they're experiencing? How do we allow safe spaces where I can be empowered to say that I need help? Yes. And I just feel, me personally, by you saying that, it will help a lot, especially with relationships and households, because you have two broken, traumatized people coming together. And brokenness breeds brokenness, Coco. Let's be real. Like, if I'm broke, how can I try and help somebody else if I'm broke? Like, brokenness feeds brokenness. So at some point in time, somebody gotta be like, something needs to be fixed. Yeah. So it's like, okay, this person and we see it all the time on Instagram, oh, you know, you need to be healed and this is that. But where do we start? Where do we start? Like? What does it look like to be healed? Just because I got over my ex don't mean that I'm healed. Yeah, exactly. And you got a lot of these men that, you know, they are going from pillar to post because it's some kind of childhood trauma that they're trying to fight within themselves. And it goes out into the, you know, to the community, and then you got these, you know, baby mamas, you got single mother homes, and it's because everybody's broken from childhood trauma that has to do with some type of mental health. Exactly. And one thing I found so interesting, Coco, a lot of times when I was dating, and you know, maybe it's just a social worker me, girl, I'd be asking these questions. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm doing a little baby assessment, like, hey, do you have boop, 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 boop? I think we need some people need to be assessed. Yes, but I think we do. And the other thing too, what I find too, Coco, is that for a lot of men, I think that there's a lot of unspoken childhood sexual trauma that a lot of times, especially for minority men, that they have not been given permission. Like, I don't know about you, but I've met guys who say, oh, I was 11 when I lost my virginity and the girl was 16. I'm like, you weren't old enough to consent to sex, you know? And so you basically were raped. And it goes to where they're innocent. With men, that looks like Yeah, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody has ever told them that shouldn't have happened to you.
Right.
That's not how that, you were not old enough to consent to that.
And now you don't know how to mentally process it. So now you are promiscuous and you don't even know why.
Yep, exactly, Coco. It's almost like their perception of love and sexual intimacy was skewed because they were not old enough or in a healthy enough place to say that this is how this is supposed to look. This is how this is supposed to feel. And so I think that there's a lot of unspoken trauma, especially as it relates to Black men, whether it's trauma from the loss of a loved one, whether it was trauma because of societal factors such as being targeted by law enforcement, whatever that may look like, there's been no one that has stopped and said, what happened to you should not have happened, and I'm sorry that happened. That was traumatic.
Right. But when you're going into, like you said, being assessed, I just feel that when you're going into relationships and you do have these conversations, men, even women, we still don't know how to communicate that.
Exactly.
We don't know how to communicate that because everything that we do is almost like we try to hide from the other person. We're always putting our representative out, what I think you want to see.
Exactly.
But then when you get to know me and we're in the same household and now we're raising a child, now, oh, he crazy. Oh, she crazy. But I didn't really get to know you because I was too afraid to communicate, or I don't even know how to communicate.
But I think you touched on something really important earlier, Coco, and I think the term vulnerability. And when I tell you, I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the context of the community, like in the Black, Hispanic, brown community, whatever, in minority communities, because when you actually look up the definition of vulnerability, it means to be at risk of being harmed or attacked.
Yes.
So like when we think about relationships, we struggle to be vulnerable with another person, to say, this is what I experienced in my life, this is the hurt that I endured, like, are you open to helping me heal through this process? And so a lot of times, you're right, we put up this facade as though we're this whole person, even though there's pieces of us that are unhealed. And then what happens is trauma breeds trauma, because then what happens is that person that I'm dating or you're dating unintentionally then causes brokenness in us because of things that are unhealed in them.
Correct. And a lot of times, like you said, with being vulnerable, it's pretty much of where you feel like, okay, if I give you information, are you going to use it against me if we get in an argument? Are you going to use it against me when we break up and you're trying to get with the next person and you want to call me every name in the book? So I just feel like that has a lot to do with it too, as far as being healed. Can I, heal with you, and am I safe enough with you for you to be an adult, to be like, okay, even if we don't make it, or even if we break up or whatever, I'm not going to be that person to use that against you. And I just feel like a lot of us, because of learned behavior, brokenness, we see it all the time. It's like we don't want to even put that information out to try to heal with the person, because we know, oh, if we break up, it's going to be on.
It's that risk of harm or what may happen. But I will say this though, Coco, I feel like, and even just from my own personal journey of healing from things I've been through in my life, I found that the ultimate definition of when I was fully at peace with things I've experienced is when I no longer felt ashamed about what they meant to as to who I am as a person. So for example, like if I'm telling yes, I was in this relationship, it was unhealthy, yes, X, Y, and Z happened, I recognize that was who I was then, and it's not who I am now. And that actually the negativity of what happened helped make me who I am, because it gave me insight into what parts of me need to be healed. That there was some brokenness in me as a woman that I was okay with dealing with that relationship. But I think the ultimate freedom comes along when I'm able to be vulnerable and no longer have that fear that what you may think about my trauma, because in all honesty, what you think about my trauma doesn't matter. It's about how I perceive my trauma. And it's how I have moved beyond my trauma. And I think that's when we experience the ultimate level of freedom from past experiences, when we are able to look to another person and say, you know what, Coco, I've been there. And I think that, especially in the context of like women, I have found that women have found the greatest community when we are able to be honest with each other and say, you know what, sis, like I've been there too. Because a lot of times we struggle in silence too, not just for the men, Coco, but like especially when we have relational trauma or whatever that may look like, past relationship that failed, we don't want to talk about those things because we don't want to think we stupid or, oh girl, you let somebody do you like that. But in all honesty, all of us have that story.
Exactly. Exactly.
And there's so much strength that comes along in being vulnerable with another woman to say, you know what, I know what that looks like. I've been there too, but look at where we are now.
Right. And not only that, look at what, like, if you have a story to help somebody that's been through it or going through it, at least they know, okay, I have a shoulder or I have a helping hand. And a lot of times I feel like people stay in stuff because they don't have an outlet.
Yes. Yeah. And there's nothing more dangerous, Coco, than solitude.
Yes.
Because when you are in a place of isolation trying to work through your own trauma, there's nobody telling you a different narrative.
No.
There's nobody telling you that you don't have to stay in this space. And I think that that's where community becomes so important. But in order for you to have community, you have to have vulnerability. You cannot have community unless there is some level of vulnerability where you're willing to be open and allow certain parts of yourself to be exposed with the sense of being able to help another person.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you have so much education in this. You speak so well.
Oh, thank you.
When are we going to have something on your social media because I know I think I shared it. You had a post that you had did like this uplifting word and stuff like. I want to see more of that from you. Even with the mental health, like just coming on, saying little snippets or anything to help somebody out, because when people put uplifting stuff, you don't know how that helps somebody that might be going through it. So when are we going to
listen? I feel like Coco and my pastor must have been working in the room. Girl, when I tell you, literally today at church, my pastor was like calling me out from the pulpit, like, you need to put your okay, Dr. Phil. So, I will say this hands down, Coco. When I speak to you about like the power of vulnerability, girl, that has been a journey that God has put me on. Because I would say like a lot of my strength has come from hiding my scars. And over the course of like the past 2 years, God has really been pushing me forward and saying like, I've given you this gift of articulation. I need you to use it to be able to help other people.
Right.
And I'll never forget, about 2 years ago, I spoke at my church women's conference. And that was the first time that in this open forum with people I don't know from all over Lee County, that I was able to talk about my own personal struggle and vulnerability with my walk with Christ and some things I have been battling with. And it was such a profound moment in my life. And more, God is like, I need you to come forward. And so I hear you, Coco. I take that as confirmation. So all I'm going to say, folks, is look over in 2023 because you might see your girl right next to Coco Bella's house. You might be seeing some little snippets right there, right along with her. But, I definitely feel like part of, what God is calling for my life, Coco, is to increase my platform. I think I think I've kind of been shy with it, and I'm not shy in a lot of regards.
And I'm trying to figure out why is it taking so long, because just this conversation that we're having now, I feel that you should have already been doing that.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Coco, a good friend of mine, I was talking and discussing kind of, because God put it out in my spirit years ago, and I just been struggling with myself. I think kind of that fear, like you said, Coco, of like, Lord, what if I step out and I fail? Lord, what if I step out and people don't receive me? And what if I open up this door of vulnerability and share these parts of my life that I've kind of held so sacred, and then people use it against me. And so, but God has pretty much told me in this, he's like, I need you to step forward into this, because in your weakness is where I'm made strong. And so like, when you fail, I am glorified, and so I'm really stepping out on faith, Coco. Like I said, be on the lookout, girl. There's definitely some things coming in 2023.
I am here for it. Because I feel like you should have been doing it.
Look. Okay, this is a count. She got me all on camera, y'all. You see how she do me on camera?
Yes.
Listen, it's the accountability.
Been done.
Yes, ma'am. I got you. I promise y'all. It's coming though. Like literally, it has been. God is like through so many people, and I'm telling you, just today at church, I'm not even playing with you, Coco. My pastor was like praying for businesses, and he literally was calling me out from the pulpit. He was like, Sheena, yep, I hear you. So I take this as further confirmation.
It is. It is.
But
and
honestly,
God speaks to a lot of people to try to get you where you need to be.
And honestly, Coco, to hear you say that, it means a lot to me, Mama, because I look at the journey that you've been on as far as building your brand and building your platform, Mom. And so, but the thing is, you don't realize who you're inspiring through your journey. And so, you know, the thing is, you're very transparent. Like, I feel like you have been so intentional with always creating content, you know, about what the processes look like for you, expanding and trying different avenues, but you never stopped. And so for somebody like me who doesn't really do social media, who I'm like, Lord, like it took me about 30 minutes to an hour to make a 1 minute reel, you know, I'm like, Lord, how's this gonna look, you know? But it encourages me, Mom, because like, in all honesty, I'm like, well, you know, I've seen your journey from beginning to now. And that's why I say I'm so proud of you, because you continue to expand, to find ways to reach different demographics, to reach different audience, to expand. What does the Coco brand look like? You're constantly rebranding and redefining. And regardless if you have setbacks, you'll continue to push forward.
Yes, and branding has a lot of rebranding.
Yes.
It doesn't stay at just one thing.
Yep.
Because like you said, you have to figure out who you're going to touch, who you're going to reach. So the first time you come out, it's not going to look like how you end.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, like,
and I think for me, to be honest, Coco, like, and it was so funny, a good friend of mine was, because I was like, well, I don't know what my brand is, and I don't know about this, and he was like, that's an excuse. I was like, oh, okay, I feel like you just called me out. But literally, that was the conversation. I was like, well, I don't know, who am I going to be? And it was like, that's an excuse. That's just a small piece of the process.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Nike came out with the best slogan, just do it. Because you cannot, it's just like having a baby. It's never a perfect time.
That's true.
And your brand is going to be your baby. So it's like you're going to have to grow with it.
Yeah, Coco, that's a word. Anytime you're birthing something, you
got to grow with it.
You got to trust the timing.
You got to trust it.
And trust the journey of once you birth it, whatever, how it's going to look. But you're right, though. I definitely, that was the first time. And I'm going to tell you, and girl, people couldn't see on the other side when I posted that video. My hair was like trimming. Girl, I was like, I ain't have my eyebrows on. I was sweaty, child. I almost fell when I said it. Look, I was like, Lord, trying to be obedient to the Lord early in the morning. But when I tell you the outpour, Coco, of people who text me and was like, Sheena, I just give glory to God for your obedience. That word touched me. I was just overwhelmed, because I'm like, who am I? You know, that God saw it right to use me. You know
who you are until you put yourself out there.
Yeah, that vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah.
You never know, because people, especially in the community, they look at, okay, she's a social worker, she's doing this.
Yeah.
Then when they see you talk, then you're on the documentary Hush. It's like you putting yourself out there, and people are waiting for it.
Yeah.
So we waiting on it.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Listen, I hear you, Coco. She done signed and sealed it. All right, yes, ma'am. That's it. Show over, done. Miss Cheryl can do her countdown. That's it. No, but I hear you, girl, and I appreciate you saying that. In all honesty, I take that as confirmation, because I think that I definitely think it's time.
I was waiting on it, because when I seen that, when I was like, okay, well, when is we gonna get another word?
I know that one time. It's coming.
Well, what motivates you?
What motivates me? You know what? To be honest with you, Coco, for the longest time, I felt like kind of my perception of success motivated me. But over the past 4 years, I've been on a very spiritual journey. And I feel like what has been my current motivation in life is being able to actualize the purpose that God has called for me. And so, in all truthfulness, I feel that in everything that I do, I pray to Him about it. And everything that I do, I want to make sure that He gets glory for it. Everything that I do, I want to make sure that my heart and my intention is set on Him.
Yes.
And so, in all honesty, my spiritual journey, my relationship with Christ is really what motivates me to do everything that I do. Whether it's talking to you, whether it's going to work every morning, everything that I do is all about me being a reflection of God to somebody.
And I really appreciate you saying that, because people, we try to steer away from saying His name, but He's the one that wakes us up in the morning. It's not you. It's not you. It's Him that wakes you up in the morning, gives you the strength to go on your job, to deal with whatever you're dealing with every day. And I thank Him every day to give me a sane mind. Because we talking about mental health, He's the one that keeps me sane.
Listen, Coco, when I tell you, it's so funny because you know how they be like, let your memory take you be doing praise worship.
Yeah.
Let your memory take you back. Girl, I can think of seasons of my life where I knew for a fact that it was nothing but the grace of God that kept me. Because when I tell you, there's been seasons of my life where in every aspect, my mental health, my employment, my physical health, everything was under attack.
Yes.
But my faith is what rooted me. And so as I've grown in my age, as I've gotten more mature in life, you know, I would say definitely in my life before I used to say, oh, these are my 5-year goals.
Right.
This is what motivates me.
Right.
But I feel like I've shifted away from that, where like literally in everything I do, Mom, like, okay, so with this, how can is this going to add to what God is taking me? Is this going to add to what God wants me to do in the season of my life? Everything that I'm doing now, I always take it back to Him. Now, don't get it twisted, y'all. I ain't perfect. Because there's no perfect saint. There's no perfect Christian. I am far from it. But I am a willing vessel. And that's why in everything that I do, even like before I came in here and talked to you, I sat and I took a moment. I said, and I prayed. I said, God, you know, whatever it is that you want me to say on this platform with Coco, like, give me the words. Because this moment is not about me. It's about whatever platform you've created and God being able to use this platform to let somebody get what they need. To let somebody get what they need, Coco.
Yes. And that was more like, I feel like that's why I rebranded it, because Bella Talks was pretty much about relationships and stuff like that, and I'm just like, okay, this isn't really me. So when I came and redid it, which was like almost it's been about a year, almost 2 years later, and I'm like, what can I do to bring glory to Him, but also bring our community together and bring light to certain situations? Because Fort Myers don't have nothing to look at to say, oh, let's tune in this, like what's going on in the community, or like what's going on with this. So I was like, what can I do to try to put something out there positive to be able to see our people in the community doing something positive?
And the Bible says that our people perish for lack of knowledge, Coco. And so you're creating a platform which is social media based, where anybody, if they can go in and log in and watch and be informed about things that are happening and impacting our direct community. Because it's easy to watch something that's far removed, that somebody broadcast from Texas, but what's happening here in the county?
What is happening?
You know, and I think the beautiful part about your rebranding, Coco, is that the guests that you have on your show are reflective of the different components of who you are. And so I think that that's the beauty of it, is that you kind of have this eclectic, you know, audience, and also this eclectic, you know, connections, that different facets and different people can come and have this space with you to give hope and give light to somebody else. And so that's why I told you, girl, I'm proud of you. Listen, child, look, I might have to steal Miss Cheryl when I start doing my production, because, you know, Miss Cheryl is the behind-the-scenes producer.
I promise. So she was waiting on that moment, y'all.
I may have to hire Coco's behind-the-scenes producer, you know, to help me when I start filming. So y'all just don't be surprised, okay? Don't be surprised.
If I turn this phone around and show y'all what production has on, y'all are going.
Don't do her like that. Don't do her. Don't tell her business.
I'm not gonna tell.
Just know y'all might be stealing her co-producer, co-executive. It might be coming. It might be coming, y'all. It might be coming. I just love it. I love it. I love it.
All right. So, what should we be looking forward to in the future from you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, you know, one of the things, Coco, like you mentioned, I am definitely in 2023 really planning on taking a big leap of faith. You know, one of the things that I really want to create is a brand for myself. I think that God has given me a lot of different gifts that I would like to be able to put in a space where people can access them. You know, whether it's me public speaking, whether it's me as a coach, whether it's me in a mental health provider, in whatever capacity that may look. I want to be able to establish my own business, and more importantly, my own brand that would allow people to kind of partner with me to be able to have different events, different activities where we can have these conversations, where we could begin to provide these services as needed to the community. So my big thing in 2023, and this is like the Lord has been pushing on me times 10 with this, and like I said, this is confirmation from you, is me really being able to step out on faith and do something on my own and build my brand and my business and whatever that may look like. So that is something that definitely will be coming in 2023.
So if you do it, you have my support. So whatever you need, I will help you do it.
I'm gonna be right back on the show with my shirt. This is Sheena's brand. Yes. I'm gonna have a shirt and half a cocoa and her producer.
Yes. So whatever you do, I am in support of it.
Yes.
If you could say anything to young Sheena, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, that is such a profound question. I think if I could tell myself, the younger version of myself, anything, it would be that I am enough. I think that what you do, you are going to be more than enough. And I think that even now as an adult, as I prepare to step out on faith, as I know that God is calling for bigger and better platforms in 2023, and the enemy and my doubt wants to say, Sheena, what are you thinking about doing? I have to remind myself that I am enough. And even in my inadequacies, that God will meet me in those spaces so that I will literally have everything I need to be successful.
Spoken so well. How can they find you on social media?
So you can find me on social media. As of right now, I have not officially launched my my page, my branding, but it is coming by the end of January 2023. I promise y'all it's coming. But you can find me, Sheena Torres-Nunes, and I can't remember my IG off top, y'all.
Okay.
But I'm going to share this video, and Coco will tag me because I don't remember my IG name.
I will have all of her tags on the bottom of the screen, even her IG that she doesn't remember.
I legit don't remember my IG, y'all. That's a generational gap. Because,
girl, you is younger than me.
No, Coco, I'm like, you got right here together. There's judgment in her tone, y'all. But I recognize my struggles. Listen, I recognize my struggles, and I do not remember my IG name. I can't get in my Twitter. I've been locked out of my Snapchat since 2020, but I accept that, and God is still good. Yeah, Coco judging me, y'all. It's a little bit judgment. But we're going to do better.
We're going to do better in 2023. We're going to get these, social media platforms back up and rolling because people need to see you.
Oh, I appreciate you.
Yes, they need to see you, and you have a word and you have a gift that needs to be out for the world to see.
Oh, well, I appreciate you saying that.
So I don't have any words to say. Do you have anything for Bella Talks?
I think the biggest thing is this, y'all. I just want to fit in our conversation with this, and I wouldn't be right if I didn't. One of the biggest things that me and Coco started this conversation with is talking about mental health.
Yes.
If you are someone who is struggling with mental health, whether it's you're feeling symptoms of anxiety, constant states of worrying or sadness or depression, or if you feel like you just need somebody to talk to, reach out. Whether it's that person in your life that you feel safe and comfortable talking to, or if it's a professional, or even for most of us that work in some form of workplace, there is the EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program, where you can do free counseling. Listen, going to counseling does not make you crazy.
No, not at all.
Going to counseling does not mean that there's something wrong with you. What's crazy is knowing that something is wrong and not getting help to fix it.
Right.
So if you need help, reach out. And then also, too, if you are someone who may be in crisis and may be experiencing any thoughts of harming yourself, remember there is the crisis hotline. You can simply text or call. I think it's 988, because there are supports and resources out there. You do not have to battle in silence. You do not have to battle this thing alone. There's a community of people who want to help you, and that's what this platform is really all about, letting people know that mental health is real and you don't have to deal with it alone.
Yes. I appreciate that. I think that's like a beautiful way to end Bella Talk. So like Miss Sheena said, if you are battling any mental illness, if you feel like you cannot speak with anybody that is close to you, reach out to those hotlines. And I will actually have those hotlines on the bottom of the screen so you can see that. But yes, mental health is real. You are not going crazy. Don't let people say that you're crazy, because this is just things that we go through. Society is getting worse and worse. As you see, social media is more encouraging as far as on the bad side of things versus the good side, because like especially with our youth, it's pretty much a microwave type of thing where I want the instant gratification versus working for it, and that causes a lot of depression.
It does,
because if you don't get 1,000 likes, or if you don't have that 10K followers, now you feel like you're a nobody.
And also too, Coco, I think sometimes when people try to talk to someone, and like you said, that micro-generation, like if I talk to you this one time and I still don't feel better, then I feel like, well, maybe it wasn't worth talking to someone.
Right.
And so I think that that's where people have to recognize, going against that microwave mentality, that in order to get help, sometimes it's a process.
It is a process.
It takes more than just that one time. It may be a couple of times. It may be a little more involved but you have to be willing to be open to it.
Right.
Because like you said, in this time, everything's so instant. But when you're healing from past trauma, that's a journey.
Yes.
It's a process.
Yes.
It's a journey.
Yes.
But you have to be open to that.
You have to erase all those years of the things that you've been going through, and you can't do that in 30 days.
Or in one counseling session.
No.
Or by calling your best friend and talking on the phone for 15 minutes. It's not that simple, y'all.
No. Well, I have nothing else to say, but I'm glad that you brought these topics up, and I'm glad that you came on the show, because we really needed it, and you are a ray of sunshine. So I appreciate it. I am your host, K Bella. This is Miss Sheena, and this is Bella Talks.